Joining me right now with more is Democratic strategist Eboni Williams and former George W. Bush advisor Blakeman. Brad, starting with you, what do you think? I mean, is it too dramatic to say this could be the beginning of the end, or is this just a temporary setback, or is this something bigger that we need to be watching here for Trump?
Remains to be seen, but what comes up must come down. And, Trump loved the polls when he was on top, doesn't seem to care for the polls, and doesn't even trust the polls when he's not. And Trump loves to play king of the hill, and the king may be knocked down a few pegs. It's hard coming back once you've been on top as long as he has. And usually in politics, once you start to decline, it's usually a sign of things to come. But the most interesting thing is, how does Trump react tomorrow night for the big debate?
Yeah, he's been struggling in these debates. We've seen that. This is where he falters because he's a little bit short on details. Big, grand ideas, but not a lot of nuts and bolts. That said, Eboni, it's not as though Dr. Carson has been tremendously forthcoming with lots of details either.
No, that's true, Trish. Here's the thing. The numbers show that for Donald Trump, his diehard supporters, 55% of them will support him regardless as to how he does in the debates. So that's really good for him versus, Ben Carson supporters, they're a little bit more like Dr. Carson. They're more pragmatic. They say, 80% of them say they think they'll lean towards him on Election Day, but it's still too early to decide. So in that one demographic, that actually bodes really well for Donald Trump.
I got to say, Donald Trump, he's kind of got a point when he talks about the lack of energy from Dr. Carson. Sure. I mean, he comes across as a very sweet man, a very nice man.
Very cerebral, very smart. They're two sides of the same coin, though, right? Both wildly successful at what they do, but Donald Trump's bombastic and he's loud and he's almost abrasive. Dr. Carson, more cerebral, more of a bedside manner, and some people prefer
sometimes
that.
It's not what you say, but how you say it, right? Sure. I mean, don't Americans, voters want, Brad, someone who's a little more emphatic when it comes to delivering a message than, say, Dr. Carson is?
Well, I'm not so sure. I think Dr. Carson, the real appeal is the same as Trump's. It's their demeanor that's totally different. They're both outsiders. They don't come from a political background. Yet they're surging in the polls. Why? Is because they're different and they're anti-establishment. And that's the question is that going to resonate? I happen to believe 2015 is the year of the outsider, but I happen to believe 2016 may be the year of the insider.
Oh, in other words, we're going to pivot. It's still early in the game. Yes, that could quite turn out to be the case. But you think about Dr. Carson, and it really, to me, in so many ways, symbolizes how great this country can be, how we really are the land of opportunity. This is a guy who had the odds severely stacked against him. His own mother did not finish third grade. She went on then to get married at the age of 13. Turns out her husband's a bigamist. She has to raise her two boys on her own. He said he often didn't see her because she would leave for work at 5 in the morning and she wouldn't return until 11 o'clock at night. Yet she always insisted they get an education. And that really, it is a tribute to how great this country can be that he went on to become the success he has become, and now running for president. He had a lot of struggle there on the way. He turned to God. He turned to Jesus. That saved him. And that message, Eboni, that resonates with America.
That narrative that you just described, Trish, brilliantly, by the way, really emphatically. And that's what I think is resonating. I think that's why we're seeing this surge. There is something. Look, there's two approaches politically, right? There's tapping into the head, which can be very effective, but there's tapping into the heart. And I think that's, again, where Dr. Carson is kind of at an advantage in that regard. Now, to Brad's point, we're a long way from 2016. We'll have to see how that translates. But right now, I think that he looks like the adult in the room. His personal narrative very much replicates this making America great again. It might be Donald Trump's slogan, but Dr. Carson looks like he's lived it. So certainly very attractive.
Why do you think, Brad, that Donald's stumbling right now?
Well, I think it wears off the showmanship and the bravado. And we look no further to the last debate when he stood silent on policy for over 30 minutes. When he's not attacking, there's not much that Donald Trump has to say. And the fact is, there's nobody behind the curtain. It's like the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, you got to believe that this is a smart guy, right? He's built a heck of a business on his own.